Daily success, daily success. Plan the week ahead, be excellent. Make money moves, achieve your goals. Transform your life, one routine at a time. Daily success, daily success. Go and get yours. You better go get yours.
Let's jump in. So today, Candice, the founder and fearless leader of FMC, we're talking about your journey, your business journey over the last just about a year, and how your business has evolved, what things have happened during your time in Achiever. So first, let's just go back to right before you decided to join Achievers Club. Where were you in your program, in your business, and what were some of the things you were struggling with?
Yeah, so before I joined Achievers, I guess I would say I was busy being busy. I was making progress and movement, but I would consider it kind of slower progress because I went at this to do next. So in 2000, the year in a fellowship program for social entrepreneurs, and it was a very somewhat structured program in terms of here's what you're trying to accomplish, here's, and having some guidance and support and peer mentorship and all of that throughout the process. And so I want to say the program ended maybe like around October or somewhere around there, September, October. And so then it was kind of like, now you graduated and go, and now you can just, take off. And I realized like how much having that ongoing support was, how helpful it was. And so then I was on my own, and I was back to, okay, I have a million ideas, but no one to tell me stop focusing on these million ideas, go with this one. Mm-hmm. And so I was really trying to focus on prioritizing, because so I always say there's like two types of people. There are people who say that they can't come up with any ideas, and then there's people who have too many ideas, and I'm on the other fence. I can come up with ideas. I am an idea generator. But but the problem is, because of that, I can get overwhelmed with like, well, which one should I try first? And so I may start something and then start something else and then start something else. And so never really like spend enough time getting traction. So I'll get some progress out of it, right? Because doing is better than doing nothing. But not as much as I think as if I was as focused as I could be. So I don't remember exactly what I was searching. I don't know if I was searching something around plan. I have no idea. But somehow I came across your Plan the Week Live. And I joined one of those. And then I was like, oh, I wonder what else she has. And then on your YouTube channel, I guess it was like the previous Plan the Week's lives or something. Yeah. So I started listening to those, and I was like, yeah, this is what I need. This is what I need. And so I think I went on. Actually, no, I think I started looking at the videos first, and then I found out about the Plan the Week Live, and then I joined the Plan the Week Live. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So what was your experience when you first, got started, right? So thinking about, after we sort of had your 90-day call, talked about some of the goals you wanted to accomplish and all of that. Mm-hmm. What was that sort of like transition in the beginning of like being able to get things going?
The transition was fine because I'm used to like just diving into stuff and being in different like programs and things like that. And so after we had got off our call, I think it was maybe like a 2-week period before I joined the first Monday call. And so I felt like the onboarding and the transition was, but again, coming from someone who spent like the last X amount of years in different fellowships and stuff, I'm just so used to you dive in and you get going.
Yeah, you were very good about that. I asked because I know sometimes people are like, you know, what's that phrase that people say these days, like drinking from a water hose? They're like, oh, there's like so much,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like information
Yeah.
and all of that stuff. But you were very good about sort of jumping in and being able to get things going. So um, if you think
Yeah.
about, well, go ahead, what are you gonna say?
Yeah. I was gonna say, because I think that because I spent, like, you know, so much time like in leadership fellowships and things of that sort, it's a very similar model. It's like learn and do at the same time. And so it's like you dive in, you get a bit of information, you figure out which ones you need, you make the next step, you come back. And so didn't feel overwhelming to me.
You know, one thing I've never really, we haven't talked about, Candice, that I think is very unique about you. I think there's a lot of people who want to start nonprofit organizations, but they have a nonprofit mindset. And, you know, you have started a nonprofit organization, but you have more of a social entrepreneur perspective.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, what, you know, what inspired that approach, and how do you think it has helped you to sort of set yourself apart and set your work apart?
Yeah, so I think a lot of that is from my undergraduate degree was in business, and I have an MBA as well. And so I've always had more of like a business mindset in my approach. It's just so happened that I transitioned in like the education sector of how of business. And so I think what's unique is that because I have the business, I guess, background, and then also the education piece, to me, it's a lot easier to merge those two. I see it as an education business, you know? And I think a lot of times, I know for a lot of nonprofit founders that I personally know, they don't have the business background. They just have whatever their mission is. Whatever their mission is, that is the thing that they know about. And
Yeah.
so when it actually comes to the struggle with, that's pretty much the biggest piece of it. And then also, I think sometimes people think nonprofit means like literally you don't need money. It's a
Yeah.
tax status.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. You're right.
Nonprofit
You're not
is a
supposed to
tax
need money.
status. Yes, it's a tax status. Like you can't walk into somewhere and go, "Hey, I'm a nonprofit. I want to use this space and like just give it to me for free," or
Right.
"I can't pay this light bill because I'm a nonprofit." Like people still want money. So
Right.
I think that's the other thing too, because sometimes people feel like, well, my organization is about a cause. It's about a cause, and so people should just support the cause. They should just support the cause, but it's still a business, and so it still needs money to operate. And so I recognize that, like, one, and I think the biggest struggle is that people don't recognize that sometimes without having like a business background or having gone through something where they learned that piece of it.
Right. Or having somebody yell at them. I can't tell you how many people I've yelled at. Like, I do not agree with people starting nonprofits, especially if they don't run like a business. Like
Yeah.
a nonprofit is a business.
Mm-hmm.
And so either just start a social enterprise or run your nonprofit like a business, or like just volunteer. Like just,
Yeah. Well, another piece of it is I think people think it's easier if it's a nonprofit. I've heard people say that when they first get started, they think like, oh, I'm going to automatically get so much support because it's a nonprofit. It is no different. It is no different. I've had for-profit education business, and it literally feels the same. Like it's no different, but I think that from the outside looking in, people think it's going to be different because they think like, oh, I'm mission driven, and so people should just jump on board with my mission and support. Right. But that's not how it works.
Yeah, people handing out money is not happening these days like it might
No,
have been.
no. I don't know when it was happening, but I know it's not happening now.
Yeah.
I can tell you that much.
Okay, so let's go back to like your first set of 90-day goals. Do you remember what they were?
Oh, overarching 90-day goals. So I had three. So here's the thing. I always been a planner, so I always have goals, but and the reason why I was inconsistent with hitting all of my goals, my tracking wasn't necessarily like about daily success. You're tracking on a weekly basis, and might be like, oh, I'll check in here, check in, right, and you have that past or whatever overarching goals, and then break them down into like my quarterly goals. And so I had a goal around like becoming more physically, financially fit, and a leadership, and I call it leadership journey. So financially fit journey, physically fit journey, and a leadership journey. Because I always think you're always, on the journey in life. And so in the beginning, I do remember at the beginning of the year, it was literally about just becoming consistent with what I was doing and not not having 100 tasks. We'll write down 50 things that I'm going to get done in a week, knowing that, I cannot get those 50 things done in a week. So then what will happen is I'm skipping around doing some of the things, but it's not cohesive. So I'm not getting like a bigger impact. So I remember in the beginning, you saying, okay, look at how many hours you actually have available, then look at your tasks and prioritize, instead of looking and saying, I need to do all 20 of these things, knowing you have 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
And that's the type of things, that's what I was doing. And so I remember in the beginning of the year, it was literally just becoming more realistic with what time I had.
Yes. I remember too that one of your big projects, at least from the FMC side, was to really get all of your curriculum finalized for the programs. Yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah. That was a big one. And because at the time I had some of it written. Well, yeah, I had some of it written, but it was like piecemeal, because in the beginning, I was delivering like a lot of the sessions. So what would happen is like, I know what's going to happen. I don't need to be so detail oriented. Like I know what comes after this. And so, but when I started getting help and getting other people to the classes, that's where the problem came, right? Because I didn't have any structures to say, here's everything. It was like, oh, let me give you this week. I'm gonna get you back next week with other stuff, and it wasn't in a way where it was turned, I got you on Sunday before Monday,
Right.
It wasn't in a way that was, I'm not gonna leave you hanging. And so it wasn't in a way that was turnkey. So that was my biggest thing that I was focusing on. And what's interesting too, is I didn't realize, so at first that was my quarter one project, I didn't realize like how much work that was. And so in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, I'll knock this out this month and I'll be able to do X, Y, Z. But honestly, I think quarter 3 is when it all really finally came together, and I'm still like finishing the training stuff now. And so I think I just really underestimated that project big time. And so it ended up being a year-long project.
Yes, but I mean, you're pretty much done, and you've been able to onboard schools as a result, right? So that's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge.
Yeah,
Tell me, what are some of your
I'm excited about that.
Oh, you're really excited about it. I am too. I can't wait to see.
No, I was just saying, yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
So tell me what were some of the other big insights that you've had in the program, or even maybe more specific to the daily success methodology or some of the principles that we talk about in Achievers?
Yeah, so here's the thing. It's one of those things where I've realized over the years that you kind of need, a few components to be successful. Like one, you need to have clarity. And I think the biggest piece of why people have a hard time, achieving their goals is because you're just not even clear on what your goals are. And sometimes they're so like large and big that you don't actually think about what does that actually mean? Like, to achieve it, what does that mean, right? And then I think the other piece is like we overcomplicate things. I know I just like, you think you got to have all these different, like it has to be so complicated in order for it to be successful. And so you had to, the simplicity piece. And then I think that leads to, and then I think the biggest piece is the intentionality. So I feel like daily success routine really helped me with like definitely the intentionality of it. Like, this is my goal, and stick with that. Like, stop bouncing over here, bouncing over there, having shiny Andrick syndrome, because you're looking and you're like, oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. It's like, no, your goal is right here. do that first and then worry about the other thing, you know, later. And so I think for me, that was the biggest thing, is being intentional. And it sounds like something that is like so simple and common sense, right? But it's hard to do. And I think most things in life are simple, but hard to do.
Yeah.
So because you have to build that habit. And so it was me building habits of looking back each week and saying, I said I was going to do this. Did I do those things? I said I was going to do this. Did I do those things? And so for me, I think that was the biggest piece, is building those weekly habits.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so well said. It is simple, but difficult to do, especially when you have like life stuff, right? That's coming in. Like you're also a mom and a wife and have other roles that you play in your life, along with running your business and working a full-time job. Like, you know?
Yeah.
So any one of those things on any given day can
Right.
require additional attention.
Right. Exactly. And I'm intentional about what you're doing. A month, 2 months, 3 months can easily fly by before you go before you go back and realize like how off track you are. And then at that point, you're discouraged. You're like, oh, well, it's like 3 months now and I haven't achieved that thing. So maybe it's not going to happen. And so I think another thing too, with the, is the thing, because you lose momentum. So even weeks where I did not accomplish everything I wanted to accomplish that week, I made sure that I accomplished something, or at least half of it, so I don't lose the momentum of going forward, versus just thinking, well, if I can't do all of this, then I'll just wait till when I can.
Right. Yes. So that's a really good point. So just, we always talk about what that momentum over motivation, right? So just being able to keep going and have a way to get back to things even when you fall off, right? You know, like, okay, I still have my goals right here in front of me, and knowing exactly what to do. And you're one of like the you know, Trello rock stars. I'm always like looking at Candice's board for inspiration. I'm like, yeah,
Well,
I'm starting to think about
visual,
2020. I'm like, I need to go to.
I'm a very visual person, and environment means a lot to me. And I know some people, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. But for me, like where I am, like literally the physical space, the things I'm looking at, like that is what feels like my energy. And if I feel like it's like, oh man, something is a task, or if I feel like it's boring, then I'm not going to do it. So to take an extra 5 minutes and create my graphics and boards, if it's going to get me to do what I need to do, like that's what I'll do.
Nice. So let's talk about the masterminds. How are the masterminds for you, the mastermind sessions?
Yeah, I love the masterminds, because I think that, like I was telling you, I'm coming from a world of like different fellowships and stuff. And that is really the biggest thing that is the benefit of being in a fellowship, is the opportunity to be able to talk with people that are on a similar journey as you. And because you kind of have some of the same struggles, or if you don't have the exact same struggles, you either used to have that struggle or you're going to have that struggle later, depending on where you are on your journey. And sometimes depending on like what type of network you are around, some people may not have access to other business owners or other people that are on a path as them. And so you can feel isolated, you know, and not wanting to bombard your friends who have nothing to do with, you know, or even care about what you're doing. And you're trying to force them to be involved, right? And so for me, I like the masterminds because it was a chance to kind of get ideas from people, but really kind of go deep with it and explain a little more, give a little more background, and just kind of like a brainstorming session, and get to know the other ladies a little better.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me about the retreat experience that we did over the summer.
Yeah, I like the retreat experience. I felt like it was, you know, so here's the thing. I've never been on, let's see, I'm trying to think. I've never been on anything that was considered like a retreat. I've been to, of course, conferences like crazy, right? But not anything where it was a mix between learning and yeah, there were things where you might, like conferences where they might have like a social hour or something to that effect. But not to the point where it's where you're being able to continue to engage with people that you were engaging with before, right? And so to me, I thought it was great. It was in a different city, so you felt like you were traveling a little bit. And being able to be talking to someone for like almost it wasn't a year, but like 6-7 months, right, online, and then being able to meet them. It felt really weird at the airport though, because I was like, I feel like I know them, but not really, because I haven't seen them in person, and so introduce myself. This is kind of weird, but it was really fun though. Yeah.
Wait, what? One of the things that
I would not.
Go ahead. What are you gonna say? I think you're gonna say what I was about to say. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What are you gonna say? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that, do like an online program, even though you like see people and you know that the people are real, it still kind of surreal. So it was like, wait, you're like actually getting on a plane to go meet people that you don't actually know. Like, right. It's like you just never know, because you don't actually, it's like it was interesting.
One of the things that I remember you saying at the retreat was about some of the activities, and you were like, I'm so glad that there were activities built in, but I would have never did this. Like, you would have never, sort of thought like there was going to be all these different activities, And I think that stood out to me because as entrepreneurs, sometimes we're so focused on like the results, right? And the business side of it, but not being able to take that time to just do something fun. It takes us out of our head, like into our body. That brings back this creative energy to do the work.
Yeah. So because I'm the type of person, I'm a get it done person. And so unless I am forced to do something, I hate to say this, but to do something fun, I'm like, I don't have, if it's part of, but if it's part of a group thing and I'm like, okay, the expectation is that we all go, then I'll go. But if it's something like honestly, if would you like to go? I don't know, but I would have thing. I would have said, oh. I think you were frozen.
Okay, I think, you froze for a second. Now you're back.
Yeah.
So you said if you probably would have, was the last thing I heard.
Oh, I said, yeah, if like, I feel like if it was if a person came to me and said, hey, let's go do this, I probably would have said, oh, no, thank you. But because it was part of our itinerary, I felt like it was part of the program. Right. So I was like, oh, this is like, just like going to a session. I gotta go. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I didn't give you guys the agenda up front. Everybody's like, let's get the whole agenda. Let's get the whole, they're like, no, I know these ladies.
Yeah. Yeah, so we could come up with an excuse on why we can't do it. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That is true. That is true.
So what are your biggest, sort of wins, over the past year? What are the things you're most excited about having implemented for FNC?
Yeah, so like definitely getting my systems together, and I like out of
Wait, pause for 1 second. I think it's freezing again.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Okay, so you said getting your systems together.
Okay. Yeah, getting my systems together, because it's something that I knew that I always that I need to work on, but I felt like I had all this other stuff that I needed to do first, and I will get to it when I get to it. But actually putting it down as projects made me focus on it and made me actually do it. And so I would definitely say that, because that has helped me to be able to, it's so interesting, like how things that may feel disconnected can make you feel more confident.
Yeah.
Leader. And so for me, like being able to have that stuff together, it's almost like you gave an example of like you know, how you might have like a junk drawer you don't want anybody to see, right? And so like your back end systems could feel like that. And so you're not going to ask people for help if you feel like you're a hot mess, right? Be like, oh, I'll ask for help when I get it together, but then you never get it together.
Right.
So therefore you never ask for help. That was a really big thing for me. And so when I did start getting more help, I felt much better about here's everything, and here's how we do this, and here's how we do that. Because I was operating so much of things just in my head and knowing what to do, but not having it recorded. Or I would have it recorded, but not in like a file would be over here, a file would be over there, but nothing where I have minutes to it in a like a coherent manner.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So, you know, instead of being more like sporadically organized, but you couldn't necessarily like immediately put your hand on something when you were looking for it.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so systems was a big one for you. Was there anything else?
I think, let's see. Everything revolve around just being intentional. But I know there's some people plan, and you know, but I've always been a planner. But it was more for me like
I think you froze again.
being like you can set yearly goals, but oh,
There you go.
can you
said
hear
you
me?
set yearly goals.
Okay. Yeah, I said I really goals, and it's one of those things where a year is a long time, but then again, it's a short time, right? If you're being intentional about what you're doing. And so what happened is I could set an overarching goal, but then I would look in June and say, oh, I'm nowhere near making this because either, or even let's say if it was 3 goals, I may be well on one. About the, and that when you're doing that.
Okay, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right, you're perfectly back now. All right, so let's just wrap with what are your next things that you're going to work on tackling? What are you excited about?
Okay. Yeah, I am super excited about really starting to be consistent with marketing.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where I kind of know what I need to do, but it's actually doing it. Yeah. Is where I'm at right now. And I think now that I got all the other stuff kind of out the way, I don't have an excuse to be like, well, I need to do these other things first, and I need to do that first, and I need to do this first. It's like you just have to step outside your comfort zone and just do it. And so that's what I'm really excited about for 2020.
Yes. You know what I love about that too, Candice, is that you've basically got your back end organized so that you don't have to feel like you're reluctant to invite more people in, invite more clients in, because you know that stuff is tight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes there's a fear around marketing.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Out there because you don't feel like stuff is tight and together.
Yeah, I think that's part of like when you hear people talk about imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And I am the leader, you know, in order to put myself out there. But I think if you dig deeper, it's because something that you know or you feel important that you need to do that you're not doing. Thinking people have access to that knowledge, and so you feel less confident about yourself out there and putting your organization out there. And I think once you get past that, you don't have that excuse anymore.
Yes. Oh, so good. Yeah, that excuse goes away.
Mm-hmm.
That's the tough part. All right. Awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else you want to just say about your experience over the last year, your personal growth, your business growth?
Yeah, I just think you're doing stuff with it and you kind of think it's like a professional growth, but honestly, I think daily success is a combo. It's personal growth and that you continue to use in your personal, like this I can only use during this time, right? And I think anytime that you are trying to achieve any, those are the same principles regardless, whether it's you're trying to get more physical, sometimes we professional development and personal things, when really most of the time it's not, because whatever you need in the professional is probably what you need personally as well. And so I would say like the program just really helped with both of those things. So if people are thinking, well, is this just about my business? It is about business, but it's more about you as a leader and how you're showing up and what you're doing on a daily basis to move your business forward, which is the habits that you're building that you can use in your personal life as well.
That's so well said. Awesome.
Daily success, daily success. Plan the week ahead, be excellent. Make money moves, achieve your goals. Transform your life, one routine at a time. Daily success, daily success. Go and get yours. You better go get yours.